My name is Rowe. We're filming for the Hamilton College Jazz Archive in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm very pleased to have Dave Valentin with me today.
Pleased to be here.
And I have a feeling that you're kind of an outgoing personality from what I've seen so far. Does it help in the music world to have kind of a upbeat approach to your business?
I think it helps. My family was always upbeat, and we had parties in the weekends with the aunts and the uncles, music in the house, and always good food and laughter. And living in the South Bronx, you have to have a sense of humor,
Yeah.
or else you get in trouble. But it's just the way I was brought up.
Yeah. When you were, let me say, 5 or 6, you were born in 54?
52.
Right? 52.
Yeah.
Can I guess that the music you were hearing at that age was not the typical, like, rock and roll that was happening?
No, no, it was Latin music, what we call Afro-Cuban rhythms. It's montuno, son montuno, cha-cha-cha, boleros, the pachanga, the charanga, Cuban music, danzones, Aragon, Tito Puente, Machito, Daniel Santos, Tito Rodriguez, La Lupe, Celia Cruz, and a lot of guitar, Trio Los Panchos, Los Matamores. So it was a combination of what we call Hubert music, which is the guitars, the old guys with the guitars on a mountain in Puerto Rico singing, and also the era of the Palladium, which my parents used to go to the Palladium, which is where everybody went to dance.
I see.
We had that battle of the bands, Tito Puente against Tito Rodriguez, and they had to outdo each other as far as my parents told me.
Yeah, that kind of healthy competition, I guess, that really spurred the music.
Most definitely.
Did your parents come to New York as from Cuba?
No, my parents are from Puerto Rico, from Mayagüez. That San Juan is here, and Mayagüez is on the other side of the island. Was a fishing village, basically. And they migrated to New York. They settled on Intervale Avenue in the Bronx, which is the original South Bronx. I grew up on Fox Street and Tiffany. And it was a wonderful New York neighborhood. It was a mixed neighborhood. You know, Italians, Jews, Greeks, and eventually Puerto Ricans came in, and just a whole true community where there was really no problem getting along at all.
How come?
Well, because I think everybody brought the old values into the community. And those values, I think, they're similar across the board, whether you be Italian, Greek, Puerto Rican. Be nice. And do the right thing.
It's a nice, great, simple comp.
Yeah, and you know, if I did anything, let's say I'm playing and I did something wrong, you know, the Italian lady is always looking out the window on the 3rd floor, and I'd get home and my mom would say, "So what happened?" And I said, "Nothing." "Oh, you didn't break a window?" So everybody was always looking out, you know, to make sure that we were in check. And of course, we had our street games, stick ball, and we had slugs with the original Spalding. We had pitching in. Of course, we had but I think a stick ball was the basic call of the day, where the sewer was home plate in the middle of the street. The red car was first base. The other sewer at the end of the street was second base, and the yellow car was third base. And you threw up the ball, and we used to take a broomstick, and we used to put it in the hole of the sewer and break it off. You know, then you had your stick.
Wow.
It's a great game.
Are there any rules?
Yeah, hit the ball.
Run as fast as you can.
Hit the ball, because you wouldn't be on a team.
Yeah. Does that kind of atmosphere still exist in where you grew up?
I don't think in the same way, no.
Yeah.
No. Marbles, Skelzies, you know, you take a Coca-Cola cap, put a penny in it, melt some wax, and you had a square in the street, and you had to go from square 1, and you had to shoot it to square 2, and you had to go all the way around.
I see.
And then eventually you had to get it in the middle of the square, inside a square, 13. Once you got to 13, you won the game. Great game.
Cool. You started out in percussion, messing with percussion?
As a percussionist. My father was a merchant marine, and he traveled to Brazil. He was on a luxury liner, passenger ship, like a cruise ship. He was a first-class steward, in fact. And he brought back some bongos and congas and little gourds and maracas, and I started playing when I was 5. I started playing percussion. And by the time I was 10, 11, I was already playing in a band. I had timbales. I wanted to be like Tito Puente.
Yeah.
So they had to pick me up and bring me back. I made like $10 a night. But at that time, I was like a novelty, you know, playing with Mann. I was a little kid on timbales, so I got all the girls.
Cool. I bet. Those rhythms from that kind of music, and I think I can safely say to American ears, they seem extremely complex. But did they seem complex to you as a child? Or you just absorbed them?
Yeah. No, they were not complex at all. Because it's very complicated. You have so many rhythms, a marriage of rhythms, but they all fit together perfectly. And of course, you have your clave, which is, you know, and depending on the accent, it could be the other way around. You know, it could be so it could be 3-2 or 2-3, depending on the way the arrangement is written.
Yeah.
And I guess the only analogy is the way you play a hi-hat, where you play it on 2 and 4. That's like a guide, you know.
Yeah.
We know where we're at with the clave.
Okay.
And then when you play a solo, to make it swing, you have to play within the clave.
Yeah. What about music in school? Were you getting anything that supported this activity?
I was in the glee club in PS 39 in elementary school, and I went to a junior high school called John Dwyer 133. And believe it or not, we had 7 music teachers. We had a chorus, we had an orchestra, we had a band, we had a jazz band, acting classes.
Wow.
It was just like for some reason, and Stuart Soffer, who passed away, he was my teacher, and was responsible for me getting into music and art, because I was a percussion major. I didn't play flute till later.
Yeah.
But I think the teachers were really, really interested in quality education. And this was a rough neighborhood at that time. And they just did miracles there. We had after-school program. It was called Change Through Music, which eventually I worked in. I mean, it was just a whole center of music, and a lot of people came out of that school.
Well, who directed you to the flute?
Well, that happened. I wanted to, believe it or not, I had no interest in the flute at all. I wanted to meet a girl. Her name was Irene.
Oh.
She had blonde hair and blue eyes. For me, the only girl in the South Bronx who had that, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to meet her. So I went up to her in class and I said, Irene, can you show me something on the flute? And she was playing a flute. So she said, well, okay. And she showed me a C major scale. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And she gave me her flute, and it was kind of an erotic experience because I was playing on her flute.
Yeah.
I really started to.
Right.
Yeah, I'm getting close here.
Yeah.
So I played the scale. I played the scale immediately, and she went, "Oh my! It takes about a week to get a sound. That's great." I'm going, "Yeah." So I borrowed a flute from school, and I went home and I practiced. Boy, I bought a Herbie Mann record, learned the Joker, Coming Home Baby.
Coming Home Baby.
Came back a month later. And I said, I got her now. I'm going to get her now. And I played for her. And you know what? She wouldn't talk to me ever again. She said, "Go away. I never want to see you. I took lessons for years, and you come in a month and get away from me."
Yeah.
And that's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah. And later on, of course, she came to the shows, and I always credit her for.
Yeah, that's great.
True story.
Well, you take inspiration wherever you can get it.
Yes, definitely. And I'm glad because she had like 5 kids, and she got kind of hefty.
Right.
So maybe it was the right choice not to pursue it.
Did your parents support you in your, what must have been a strong desire to make a living as a musician eventually?
Well, my mother, well, first of all, my mother died when I was 13 of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a rough, but
Yeah.
early on, my mother told my father, he's going to be a musician whether you like it or not. And my father said, listen, if you're going to clean your room, do the best you can. If you're going to be a brother, father, do the best you can. If you're going to wash the dishes, do the best you can. If you're going to be a musician, do the best you can. Then if you decide, and whatever you decide, then be the best you can. And that was his, he was a very, very intelligent man. World traveled.
Yeah.
And my parents, yes, they sacrificed. You know, they bought a piano for me early on when I was 9. Gave me piano lessons. Bought me a saxophone. And always supported me.
Mm-hmm. Did you continue to play gigs as you got, you know, in your teens and so forth?
Yeah, finally made it to High School of Music and Art.
Uh-huh.
Again, as a percussion major, and I met this guy called Ricardo Marrero, and he started to form a group, and that was really the first time I played flute in a group. I remember my first flute solo was at a church, and I just came to look at the band. I had my flute with me, and he kind of forced me to go up there and play a solo. Mm-hmm. And eventually stayed in the band, and that band recorded 1 album for Fania Records, so that was
Mm-hmm.
a long, long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's when it started.
Yeah.
Besides, after that I played with Conjunto Libre, Manny Oquendo's Libre, which is like the Art Blakey of Latin. It's a school. I played in that group for 7 years, and once you leave that band,
You've graduated.
You've graduated,
huh?
yeah. It's a great, great, great band.
Wow. Well, how did the thing with, you did some study with Hubert Laws, is that right?
Yeah.
What a marvelous player, and
He's
just his sound and everything.
He's one of the greatest players of all time. And that happened, this guy, Bill Fisher, he was producing an album for Herbie Mann called Concerto in C minor. Mm-hmm. It's a red cover with a gold flute on it. And he would let me play flute in the band, even though I was playing percussion. So he suggested that I call Hubert Laws, but I didn't know how to. He gave me a music directory, musicians directory, and I went to a payphone. First I bought the album, Flute Bylaws.
Uh-huh.
And I went to a payphone, his number was there, and I called him on a payphone. I said, I'm David Valentin. Bill Fisher asked me to call you, and I'd like to take lessons. And he said, $15 a pop, come on by. And I took lessons for 6 months with Hubert. Mm-hmm. That was like 6 years.
Yeah.
Yes, great, great.
I was listening to, actually, I would put something on here. I hear a bit of him in your playing, if it's okay to say that.
Sure, sure, it's just a compliment.
You know, that kind of that tonguing and that just, it's great.
Thank you. All right.
What is he doing now? I haven't...
Well, he plays, since he's a Jehovah's Witness, he won't play in clubs, you know, where people drink and smoke, and
I
so...
see.
He plays, I'm sure, a lot of festivals and a lot of classical things, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great classical player also. He's a really great, great person.
Mm-hmm. Were those, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. What were the toughest years for you as far as actually trying to make a living as a musician? I hope you don't say this year.
Well, of course, the beginning was a big sacrifice. You know, moving into I had a dog in a fish tank when I moved into my first apartment, and I think there was a lull when I was with GRP, maybe in the '80s, where things were disco orientated and or whatever.
Oh.
There was some, and I think this Quiet Storm crap. I think it really damaged the music in a lot of ways, where people think that this easy listening, like really easy listening, is good music.
Can I just ask you to, you said Quiet Storm?
Yeah.
Is that your own phrase?
Oh, no, they use that on the radio, Quiet Storm format, or...
Wow. I guess I'm out of touch.
Or cool jazz.
All right,
you know,
yeah.
And not to mention any names.
Right, I know what you're saying. Okay.
But there's just some music where people think that's what a saxophone should sound like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no challenge in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's damaged the music. I mean, if you play good music and you play it, people will listen. It's very simple. But they're convinced that we're convinced, or the public, that they like this because they have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
There's no choice.
Mm-hmm. It's almost an insult, almost to the listener. It seems
most definitely.
Like, you know, that this is all you can take.
That's it. Yeah. You know, some monkey with a hammer. You know.
Yeah.
But the people are more intelligent than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people need, they would like to be challenged. You know, life is just not that way. Life is up and down, you know, and that's what makes it wonderful.
Mm-hmm. How did you get with GRP? Someone just happened to see you, or just connections?
I went to school with Noel Pointer, and he had called me up and said he was doing a demo session, but he couldn't pay me. So he said, you can bring down a tune and we'll record it and you can keep the demo. I said, all right, fine. So I brought down a tune called Rainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
And after I finished the tune, this guy comes out of the engineer's booth and he goes, you know, I really like that tune. Do you have any more? So I said, yeah, I got tons of stuff. So eventually I found out that that man was Larry Rosen.
Uh-huh.
And I sent him basically my first record, all with just guitar and flute and bongos. So a few weeks later, I get a call from Dave Grusin and asking me would I like to make a record. And that was it.
Wow.
I was the first artist signed on GRP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you write at the piano?
Yeah.
When you...
Yeah, right, all. Before it was all by hand, now I have the computer, so.
Okay.
But yeah, everything on the piano.
But is it possible to describe what gets a tune started for you?
I think life. Life.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling, going to Indonesia, going to Japan, walking down the street, smelling food, anything. Anything can set me off.
Wow.
Traveling to Brazil, just mental pictures. You come back with a lot of mental and good feelings, bad feelings.
Does it usually start with the melody end of things, or with the rhythmic, maybe chordal?
Both ways. Sometimes I get some rhythmic stuff in my head, and then the melody comes later, and then sometimes it's just the melody, and the rhythm comes later.
Yeah. How do you like? You're with Concord now, so working out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. John Burke's a good guy.
Uh-huh.
He's a musician also, just like Larry and Dave were. And that makes a big difference as opposed to a music executive that who doesn't know music.
I've heard that comment a lot of times.
That can be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've lucked out with that. And of course, I'm very difficult.
You're difficult to get along with.
No.
No, I don't think so. I had to chuckle when I was listening to you and Roland Hanna this morning.
Uh-huh.
It's so interesting to hear musicians at these kind of events find a common ground.
Right.
You know, you'd mentioned some tunes to him, and he said, "Now watch out, I'm twice your age," and he'd throw some back at you. And
I told him, "Watch out, I'm half your age."
Do you feel at all put on the spot when you get to these things to try to be able to? I've started this question badly, but I guess I almost envision myself in that position, and you know, trying to think of, oh gosh, Roland Hanna, he probably knows a zillion things. Now, what's in my repertoire that I can match with his? Is that a problem for you?
No, I think within that timeline, there's something that we know together.
Yeah.
And then he just mentioned, of course, which I forgot about, like Autumn Leaves and Carnival and all those things. Mm-hmm. So just those two tunes alone, it could be an hour, you know.
Yeah, right.
Depending on the stretch.
Uh-huh.
And then he knew Footprints, and I showed him a little Montuno, he could just to, like an Oye Como Va type of thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Well, that will add a different flavor to these things. That
Yeah, because somebody told me it's it's much of an older concept kind of thing.
Right. The people that come to these things have their tastes pretty much in the mainstream.
Right, right.
But I think they'll welcome a little.
Yeah, so we'll give them a little
see what happens.
Rice and beans. See what happens. I hope they don't get gas, but.
You're right. Is there ever a time that you've had to go out and do non-music work?
I taught school for 7 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thinking I wanted to be a teacher also. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to make a change, you know, and teaching kids was great. It's great satisfaction.
Yeah.
But I thought that I could reach more of the masses through the music.
Did you teach music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not wanting to be a role model, I became one. So I try to do the schools, you know, I don't charge for any to do what I call a life master class, and I go to as many schools as I can during the year, just to let the kids know that we're here, that you can explore your possibilities. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's kind of the message.
Yeah.
And be nice, and have a good time.
Yeah. I like that, be nice. It's such a simple concept, but it's almost like we've forgotten about those kind of things.
The old. And of course, if he was not nice, we had, my grandmother had a remedy for that. Mm-hmm. It was this knuckle.
Yeah.
When you wasn't expecting it, I told you to be nice. Okay, Grandma. Okay. Out of the blue.
Wow.
And she also taught me Spanish, my grandma. She wouldn't talk, she talked perfect English, but she wouldn't speak to me in English. So I said, you know, Grandma, can I have this? She says, I no understand. Me tiene que hablar en español. So that was a good thing.
So your parents didn't speak Spanish?
No, they did.
They did too.
Yeah, but she you know, because after my mom died, my father went back to see, I lived with my grandma. So.
I see.
She was a wonderful lady.
Uh-huh. Any siblings? You have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. I have 2 brothers. One passed away. Both named George, like my father. In fact, one of my brothers named me Dave. I said, thanks, because another George in the family.
Yeah.
You know.
What do you see in the future for your own goals?
I think the future is to continue to play and explore my possibilities as much as I can, and write music and get to meet more and more musicians and play in different contexts of music.
Yeah.
Like I just was also McCoy Tyner, which was a great experience to play
Wow.
with. Recorded. He was doing a Latin jazz thing. He called me. Hello? Yeah, Dave? Yes? This is McCoy Tyner. Yeah, right. Stop messing around. No, who's this? It's McCoy Tyner. No, really? Yeah. I'm starting this Latin jazz thing. Would you like to play? Wow. Boom. And we did many gigs together. He's a great player.
Wow.
Things like that. One day I'm in Guadalupe. And Tito Puentes. They all kind of speak alike. You know, Dave. He's more animated. I want to do something new. I want the old guy to play with the young guys. And it's going to be called Tito Puentes Golden Latin Jazz All-Stars. You want to be my musical director? And I go, yeah. Does it pay more money? He says, no. I said, I'll take the job. It did pay more money. So that's another another thing.
I overheard you telling a humorous story about him at the Grammy Awards.
Yeah, he thought he was not going to win.
Yeah.
And he was downstairs, and he was like that and going, I ain't going to win nothing. All the Cubans are going to win. And he actually won. Uh-huh. And to make it short, and he told me, and I had to run 5 miles to get my Grammy. They put me in the 10th tier. Mm-hmm. He walked out very sad out of the hotel and came back like a little kid. And I'm glad. I said, Pop, I'm glad you won.
Yeah.
Because he was depressed. He was not going to win. He just went there because Santana, you know, and all that stuff.
There seems to be a pretty big surge in popular music with Latin influences.
Yeah.
Does that impact at all on what you do?
Yeah, I think it has made people more aware of the rhythms in different contexts. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. That is, you know, whether it's because of the Buena Vista or I think it helps everyone.
Yeah. And you got to play with Herbie Mann eventually.
Oh, Uncle Herbie. Yeah. Another guy. We're on stage, and he talks like that too. He talks the same way, but just with a little different inflection. So we're playing a tune, and he's at that side of the stage, and I'm over here. And he walks at me, so I think he's going to say, look, we're going to go to A, we'll go to the bridge, and we'll take it out.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of fumbling around. So he goes, Dave, right what the band is playing. He goes, what we should do, we should make T-shirts and sell them, and then let's do a record together, and we'll make some money. And he walked away. It was actually his idea to do Two Amigos.
Yeah. Did you get the T-shirts?
No.
Did you make some money?
No. But it was a great idea.
Yeah.
Uncle Herbie.
Yeah.
Uncle Herbie.
I'm interested to listen this afternoon, whenever it happens, if you do get into some Latin
we're gonna
styles,
try. We're gonna try
to see how the bass player and the drummers.
We're gonna try. I think they're gonna have a
doing
conga player there, so they may add a different
Okay.
injection of stuff.
Good.
We'll see.
Right. What was the worst experience you've had playing music up to date? Is that possible to dredge anything like that up?
Boy, there's so many.
Have you had any disasters on the road? I mean, traveling around the world.
I think no, not really. I think one of the worst times I had was breaking somebody's passing away to one of the band members. I think that was difficult for me. I had to tell Bill O'Connell that a fax came under my door that his father had passed away. Didn't go, and then I had to go and tell him. And I just broke down because my father had passed away.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just brought back.
Yeah.
So I'm out of it. So
Yeah.
And Bill O'Connell says, Dave, it's okay. Are you all right?
Oh,
He was comforting me.
Yeah.
Because I guess he was expecting it, but I wasn't, you know.
Wow.
And but I think that's something that stands out in my mind.
Yeah. How about one of the greatest things you've done so far?
Oh, I think just being with this band for such a long time, Bill O'Connell, Robbie Amin, Lincoln Goins, and Milton Cardona. Mm-hmm. I believe in family affair. They've been with me for more than 15 years.
Wow.
And I really like that. They can do everything. But we're actually a family. You know, a change here if one can't make a gig, but I like that
Right.
feeling, and it's extremely comfortable.
And it's not that prevalent in the music business anymore to have a group that hangs together like that for so many years.
And you know, the other analogy is that being with GRP for 18 years. Mm-hmm. That's kind of strange too.
Yeah.
But after a while, I think I was the mensch of the company, I guess they call it. They really, being the first artist signed, and I was Angela Bofield at the time too, and she was the second artist signed. They made tons of money with her. They were very happy. And after a while, I would go to Larry. I says, am I making another record? He go, yeah. Okay, so after, you want to hear the masters? No. Okay, put it out.
I mean, he gave you just free rein to go do the thing?
Yeah.
Here it is. Wow.
Great.
Have you ever had, well, apparently not, but I was curious if you've ever had producers who wanted you to, like, include something because they thought it would help your sales?
That disco thing, you know, there was one album called Flute Juice, and I think a review came in called, it should be called Prune Juice. That's the last time I did that.
Yeah.
I told Larry, I'm not going to make another record like this. You know, the next record was Kalahari. That was one of the best records I've done. I said, please, because it was actually his suggestions, because he thought the sales, he thought that might be a good idea to do some disco-ish kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out.
Right. All right.
But at least he learned quickly, you know. Said, just let me produce, Larry. It's fine. You just sit behind the desk.
Right. Did Dave ever get in on, did he play on?
Yeah, he played on some of the records.
Yeah.
He's great man. In fact, we just did that remake for the West Side Story also, where it was just piano and flute. We did I Feel Pretty, but with a whole new twist to it, which eventually had a Afro-Cuban thing, but in 7/4. So it's ba 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 da, ba ba da, bu da bu da, right? Da da dee ba da ba da da da. Po ee ka to po dee ka to po. It's great. And we did it at Carnegie Hall. We did that. And there's a lull just before he starts his piano solo, and you know, he's ready to go, and that people start applauding. And they're applauding. So Dave gets up, says, tune is not over yet. And then I said, let me translate that in Spanish. And I told the audience, we not finished yet. He fell off the piano. He couldn't even start playing again. Okay, we not finished yet. We tell you, okay.
Oh, man. It's funny.
This is Carnegie Hall now.
Yeah.
Tuxedos. We not finished yet. Hey.
See, the classical audience would know not to make. They wait till the suite is over.
Right.
Right. So you've been from the Bronx to Carnegie Hall.
Yes.
That's saying a lot.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I have to thank God for everything that's happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the old timers, Mario Bausa, who says, you know what? If you think it's that, if you think it's that bad, it's really not. And if you have faith, intelligence, and a sense of humor, you can overcome anything. So those are good advice for everyone.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good place to.
Right, and the other one, is, of course, if you're tired, stay home.
Yeah. Now, who said that?
That's Tito Puente.
Okay.
And if you're drunk, don't drink. What's the matter with you? Jesus. Very simple life rules.
Yeah. And be nice.
And be nice and behave.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll be listening later today, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And maybe 10 years from now we'll do another one and
We'll do another one.
see if you're still nice. And
Okay.
Well, you see, thank you.
Yeah, all right.